The morning sun cast golden rays over the tranquil forest. Birds chirped, and a gentle breeze carried the scent of blossoms. Arjun, a young merchant, walked along the winding path to the grove. His heart was heavy, burdened with doubt about his life's purpose. Upon reaching the Buddha's resting place, he knelt respectfully. The Buddha looked at him with kind, understanding eyes and motioned for him to speak. "Blessed One," Arjun began hesitantly, "I feel lost and uncertain about the meaning of my work." His voice trembled with emotion. "I trade goods and earn a living, but it feels empty and without purpose." Arjun paused, gathering his thoughts before continuing. "Should I abandon this path and seek work that feels meaningful to my spirit?" The Buddha's serene face remained calm as he listened intently. He waited for Arjun to finish expressing his inner turmoil. "Arjun," the Buddha began in a gentle, soothing tone, "life's purpose is not always revealed through the surface of work." Arjun looked up, intrigued by the profound simplicity of the Buddha's words. "Work," the Buddha continued, "is a vehicle for expression, a way to contribute to the well-being of others." The disciples gathered nearby listened with rapt attention, sensing the importance of the lesson unfolding. Intention gives work its meaning, transforming even the simplest tasks into acts of great significance. Arjun nodded slightly, feeling a glimmer of clarity amidst his confusion. To illustrate, the Buddha said, "I will share the story of Ananda, a humble potter from a distant village." Arjun leaned forward, eager to absorb the wisdom within the story. Ananda spent his days crafting pots, believing his work was insignificant and unremarkable. The Buddha paused, allowing his words to settle into the hearts of his listeners. One day, he continued, a traveler came to Ananda's village during a time of severe drought. The disciples exchanged curious glances, anticipating the story's deeper meaning. The traveler was parched and weak, searching desperately for water to quench his thirst. The Buddha's voice carried the weight of compassion and reverence for life. Ananda offered the traveler a pot of water he had stored from the nearby stream. The Buddha said. Arjun listened intently, his mind focused entirely on the unfolding lesson. Grateful, the traveler said, "This pot has saved my life. And for that, I am forever indebted to you." The Buddha looked into Arjun's eyes, his gaze filled with kindness and understanding. In that moment, he continued, Ananda realized his work, though simple, had profound value. Arjun's heart stirred with newfound insight, his doubts beginning to dissipate like morning mist. The value of work, the Buddha explained, lies in its ability to serve others and alleviate suffering. Arjun closed his eyes briefly, reflecting on the implications of these timeless words. Your work as a merchant carries the potential to bring joy and relief to those in need. The Buddha's voice was calm yet filled with the authority of truth. Intention, the Buddha emphasized, is the foundation upon which the meaning of work is built. Arjun nodded slowly, the clarity of the teaching settling into his being like a steady stream. When you approach your work with kindness and selflessness, it becomes a sacred act of giving. A disciple seated nearby raised his hand respectfully and spoke. Master, he asked, how can one discover whether their work aligns with their true purpose? The Buddha turned toward the disciple, his expression radiating patience and wisdom. To discover your purpose, the Buddha replied, look within and examine the calling of your heart. His words resonated deeply with everyone present, creating a profound silence that filled the grove. Purpose is not always found in grand acts but in the quiet dedication to what uplifts the spirit. Arjun raised his hand, emboldened by the Buddha's compassionate teachings. Blessed One, he asked, how can I ensure my work is rooted in kindness and selflessness? The Buddha gazed at him with gentle understanding, his words flowing like a serene river. Begin each day with mindfulness, the Buddha advised. and dedicate your efforts to the welfare of all beings. Arjun felt a warm sense of encouragement and resolve as the teaching took root in his heart. Let compassion guide your actions, the Buddha continued, and let wisdom illuminate your choices. The forest seemed to echo with the harmony of the Buddha's words, a reflection of the universal truth they conveyed. Arjun rose and bowed respectfully, his heart lightened by the clarity of the lesson. "Thank you, Blessed One," he said, his voice steady and filled with gratitude. "Walk your path with mindfulness and purpose," the Buddha said, his tone filled with blessings for Arjun's journey. The disciples observed the scene with reverence, each contemplating the lessons revealed in the teaching. Arjun turned to leave the grove, his spirit renewed by the timeless wisdom imparted by the Enlightened One. As Arjun walked away, the Buddha turned to his disciples and spoke. "Each of you has a unique path," he said. "Honor your journey and the gifts you bring to the world." The disciples bowed their heads, taking the words to heart and pledging to embody the teachings in their lives. The sun began to dip lower in the sky, casting a warm glow over the grove. The disciples dispersed to reflect upon the day's teaching, their hearts filled with gratitude. The Buddha sat in stillness, a serene presence amidst the ever-changing world, his teachings timeless and eternal. Another day, the sun rose over the forests of Rajagaya, casting a golden glow upon the lush greenery. The birds sang harmoniously, filling the grove with their vibrant melodies. Arjun, the young merchant, approached the Buddha once more, his eyes reflecting determination and lingering questions. Kneeling respectfully, he spoke with a steady voice. "Blessed One, I have pondered your words, yet I feel unsure if I have chosen the right work for my life." The Buddha's serene expression remained unchanging as he acknowledged Arjun's presence. He gestured for Arjun to continue sharing his thoughts. "I feel a yearning, Blessed One," Arjun said, "a pull towards something deeper. Yet I do not know what it means. Should I remain as a merchant or heed this call to explore another path?" The Buddha rested his hands gently on his knees and replied, "Arjun, the longing within your heart is a whisper of your Dharma." The disciples around him leaned closer, sensing the beginning of another profound teaching. To understand this call, you must look deeply within and ask yourself, what nourishes your soul and uplifts your spirit? Arjun's face showed a flicker of hope, and he nodded, eager to learn more. "Blessed One," he asked, "how can I hear the voice of my Dharma clearly when my mind is clouded with doubt?" The Buddha gazed into the distance for a moment, the gentle breeze rustling the leaves behind him. "Let me tell you the story of Malini," he said, his voice calm and resonant, a weaver from the city of Varanasi who faced a similar question. Arjun and the disciples listened intently, their hearts open to the wisdom carried within the tale. Malini wove garments with great skill, earning her livelihood by crafting fine cloth for the townspeople, the Buddha began. Her work brought her material comfort, yet her heart ached with an unfulfilled desire to heal the sick. The disciples exchanged glances, recognizing the common struggle of reconciling duty and desire. One day, the Buddha continued, Malini encountered a traveler who had fallen ill on the roadside. Moved by compassion, she stayed to care for him. The story unfolded as though carried by the gentle rustle of the wind, every word charged with meaning. As the traveler recovered, he blessed Malini and said, "Your touch is like that of a healer. The world needs more like you." The Buddha paused briefly, allowing the impact of the words to resonate in the hearts of his listeners. From that moment, he said, Malini realized her true calling was not in weaving but in healing the sick and weary. Arjun tilted his head, absorbing the lesson, his mind reaching toward understanding. Malini did not abandon her craft immediately, the Buddha explained. She began learning the art of medicine while continuing her weaving to sustain herself. The disciples nodded, taking in the practical wisdom interwoven with the deeper spiritual teaching. She honored her path by walking it gradually. With mindfulness and commitment, Arjun raised a hand respectfully and spoke, his voice tinged with curiosity. Blessed One, how can one discern if the longing within is truly their Dharma and not a fleeting desire? The Buddha's gaze met Arjun's with infinite patience. True Dharma, he said, is persistent, arising from the depths of your soul rather than the surface of your mind. The grove fell silent, as the weight of the words spread through the gathered disciples. It is not merely a wish but a profound connection to something greater than oneself. Arjun lowered his head, deep in thought, as the Buddha continued speaking. When your work aligns with your Dharma, the Buddha said, it brings joy, strength, and a sense of purpose. A soft murmur of understanding rippled through the disciples, their hearts touched by the clarity of the teaching. The Buddha looked at Arjun, his gaze unwavering and kind. Listen to the longing within you, Arjun, he said, allow it to guide you, but proceed with mindfulness and wisdom. Arjun's expression softened, the guidance infusing him with courage to trust his inner call. The disciples gathered around expressed their gratitude for the teaching, each reflecting on how it applied to their own paths. A young disciple named Sohan raised his hand and asked, Master, what if one's Dharma requires sacrifice and hardship? How does one remain steadfast? The Buddha turned towards Sohan, his presence exuding calm and compassion. Dharma often calls for courage, he replied. It is not free from difficulty, yet it brings profound fulfillment to the heart. Sohan nodded, his doubts easing as the Buddha's words illuminated his question. Consider Malini, the Buddha continued, who sacrificed the comfort of routine to embrace the uncertainty of a new path. The disciples listened intently, visualizing the strength and dedication required to follow such a calling. Her perseverance transformed her life and allowed her to serve others with her unique gifts. Arjun, encouraged by the Buddha's teachings, asked once more, Blessed One, how can I begin to align my work with my Dharma without abandoning my responsibilities? The Buddha's expression brightened with approval at the thoughtful question. Begin by integrating your longing into your current work, he said. Explore ways to bring your heart's call into daily actions. The disciples murmured their agreement, sensing the practicality and wisdom in the guidance offered. Over time, the Buddha continued, you will naturally transition toward a path that fully reflects your Dharma. The grove remained silent as the sun began to dip toward the horizon, its warm light casting long shadows across the gathering. The disciples rose one by one to bow respectfully to the Buddha, their hearts uplifted by the profound wisdom shared. The forest seemed to hold its breath, as though honoring the sacredness of the teachings imparted. As Arjun prepared to leave the grove, the Buddha offered one final blessing. Walk with mindfulness and courage. Arjun, he said, your journey will reveal itself step by step as you honor your truth. Arjun bowed deeply, his spirit fortified by the clarity of purpose imparted through the Buddha's compassionate wisdom. The grove grew quiet once more, the stillness a testament to the enduring power of the teachings. The disciples carried the lessons within their hearts, spreading the Buddha's wisdom like seeds carried by the wind, to blossom in their own unique ways. Another day, the morning sun bathed the forest in a warm, golden hue, and the grove hummed with tranquil energy. Arjun approached the Buddha with a peaceful demeanor, his steps steady yet purposeful. Kneeling respectfully, he spoke with a calm voice. Blessed One, I have embraced the call of my Dharma but seek guidance on balancing work with spiritual practice. The Buddha's eyes sparkled with understanding as he acknowledged Arjun's words. His voice carried warmth as he replied, Arjun, the balance between work and spiritual growth is delicate yet essential to a harmonious life. The disciples seated nearby leaned forward, eager to hear the teaching that would follow. To explain, I will share the story of Kumar, a devoted farmer who sought to balance labor and meditation. The Buddha began. The forest grew still, as though the trees themselves leaned closer to listen to the unfolding wisdom. Kumar worked tirelessly in the fields, cultivating crops that sustained his family and community. The Buddha's voice carried the weight of compassion as he continued. Despite his heavy workload, Kumar rose before dawn each morning to meditate beneath the old banyan tree. The disciples exchanged glances, their faces filled with admiration for Kumar's discipline and dedication. His mornings were devoted to stillness, his evenings filled with heartfelt reflection after the day's labor. Arjun's curiosity deepened, and he raised a hand respectfully. "Blessed One," he asked, how did Kumar avoid being consumed by the demands of his work? The Buddha's gaze met Arjun's with patient understanding. Kumar approached his work with mindfulness, he said. He treated each task as an opportunity to practice presence and gratitude. The disciples nodded, sensing the practicality and beauty of this teaching. For Kumar, the field was not separate from his meditation. It was an extension of it. Arjun pondered the Buddha's words, his heart seeking clarity on the path he should take. "Blessed One," he asked, how can I cultivate mindfulness within my daily work? The Buddha's expression softened further, his words flowing like a gentle stream. "Begin each task with awareness," he said. "Focus on the present moment and let go of distractions and judgments." Arjun nodded, his mind embracing the simplicity and depth of the guidance offered. To practice mindfulness, the Buddha continued, find joy in small details and infuse each action with sincerity and care. The disciples listened intently, their hearts filled with a sense of possibility and purpose. When you pour your heart into your work, it becomes a reflection of your inner state. A young disciple named Leela raised her hand and asked, "Master, how can one find time for spiritual practice amidst life's many responsibilities?" The Buddha turned to Leela, his presence radiating calm and wisdom. "Spiritual practice is not confined to formal meditation," he said. "It can be woven into every moment of life." The forest seemed to hold its breath as the weight of his words settled into the hearts of his listeners. When you are mindful, even simple tasks become acts of reverence and devotion. Leela smiled, her question answered in a way that resonated deeply with her experience. The Buddha then turned back to Arjun and continued his teaching. "Arjun, remember that balance requires effort. Just as a bird requires both wings to soar through the sky." The disciples murmured their agreement. Inspired by the simplicity and truth of the analogy, Arjun's face softened, his confidence growing with each word spoken by the Buddha. "Thank you, Blessed One," he said, his voice steady and filled with gratitude. The Buddha offered a gentle nod and continued speaking. Kumar understood that balance is not a destination but a continual practice of adjusting and harmonizing. The disciples reflected on this insight, understanding its relevance to their own lives and journeys. Even when challenges arose, Kumar stayed committed to his purpose and his inner peace. Arjun raised his hand again, feeling emboldened by the clarity of the teachings. "Blessed One," he asked, how can one maintain balance in the face of unexpected obstacles or hardships? The Buddha's gaze rested on Arjun, his voice resonant with compassion and truth. "Life is ever-changing," he said. "Balance requires flexibility and the ability to adapt with grace and resilience." The grove fell silent as the words hung in the air, their profound simplicity touching every heart present. When hardships arise, return to your breath, and let it anchor you in the present moment. The disciples nodded, absorbing the practical wisdom that would guide them through their own challenges. Arjun lowered his head, feeling a deep sense of peace settle over his spirit. "Blessed One," he said, I am grateful for your teachings. They have illuminated the path I seek to walk. The Buddha's eyes shone with approval as he offered a final piece of guidance. Arjun, let balance be your compass and mindfulness your guide, he said. In this way, every step becomes sacred. The grove grew quiet as the sun began to set, its golden light casting long shadows over the serene gathering. The disciples rose one by one to bow respectfully to the Buddha, their hearts brimming with gratitude and reverence. Arjun stood as well, his spirit renewed by the clarity and depth of the teachings imparted. Thank you, Blessed One, he said, his voice steady and filled with sincerity. The Buddha's smile was radiant as he blessed Arjun's journey. Go forth with mindfulness and compassion, he said. May your work serve as a bridge to awakening for yourself and others. Arjun bowed deeply and turned to leave, his steps lightened by the wisdom he now carried within. As the grove emptied and the disciples dispersed, the forest seemed to exhale, a gentle breeze rustling through the leaves. The Buddha remained seated in stillness, his presence a timeless reminder of the path to peace and balance. The teachings of that day lingered in the hearts of all who had gathered, spreading like ripples on a tranquil pond. In the quiet of the evening, the grove stood as a testament to the enduring power of mindfulness and purpose. The wisdom imparted there would continue to guide and inspire, a beacon of light in a world ever in need of balance and harmony. Buddha turned to address them, his words flowing with the rhythm of nature's wisdom. Tell me, what happens when a farmer plants a seed? One disciple answered, the farmer nurtures the soil, waters the seed, and waits patiently for the plant to grow. Thank you for watching. Buddha's teachings are always with you. Subscribe to our channel and we will see you in the next video.